Stewart here with a selection of action camera shenanigans on the table, including the new DJI OSMO Action 3. Why would you buy this camera? Let's have a chat about that. There is an elephant in the room and there is a unicorn in the room. Let's talk about the elephant first. The elephant being that the camera specifications of the OSMO Action 3 are exactly the same as the DJI Action 2. Now that's not really what we expect in this resolution and frame rate race that we typically see with cameras. To address all of that, we need to talk about the unicorn in the room, which is the price. If you give DJI 329 of your American dollars, they will give you a camera. Answers on the postcard as to what the new GoPro Hero 11 costs. I still can't quite work it out. I've seen some YouTubers say it's $499. I'm here on GoPro.com. $400, $399 if you buy this subscription service. $550 if you don't buy that service. Now, I'm just being silly here. I know exactly what's going on. GoPro are essentially trying to black customers into buying this subscription service so they can then go to their investors on Wall Street via their quarterly reports and say, hey, we're transitioning from this product company into a service-based company with recurring streams of revenue. The hope is that will please investors. Take a look at the share price. I'm not sure they're really achieving that goal, and the fundamental problem here is no one wants to be black into buying a subscription service. The only way to buy this GoPro 11 cost effectively is to be forced to buy that subscription that you then cancel. So what is it? Is it a $400 camera or is it a $550 camera? Either way, it's quite a bit more expensive than DJI's OSMO Action 3. For me, the question of price is absolutely fundamental to this discussion before we even start talking about camera specifications, because we live in a world where you've got a lot of calls on your money. If you're interested in this kind of thing, you can get a really expensive mobile phone now that will give you very, very good video performance. You can get 360 cameras that do all kinds of cool tricks that these action cameras don't do. You can buy drones for the price pretty much of one of these action cameras, and they fly, and in terms of picture quality, they give you that kind of performance. I'm not saying the GoPro is too expensive. What I am saying is the coercive subscription pricing model is off-putting, and what I am saying is the DJI OSMO Action 3 is better value. I must point out at this stage that we don't have the GoPro Hero 11, just the Hero 10, and the 11 does bring some interesting things to the table. 10-bit color is something we would love because we do enjoy the more advanced color grading process, and it's something that we do with DJI's drones like the Mini 3 Pro that also offer 10-bit color. At 1/1.9 inches, the Hero 11 has a smaller sensor than the Action 3, but it's chopped up into more megapixels. Now, those megapixels become especially useful when we're using our narrower field of view digital lenses and applying more aggressive stabilization. These are all digital processes that erode the native maximum resolution of the sensors. So high resolution, all else being equal, is a good thing. The other thing we appreciate with GoPro cameras are the colors. Get away from all that oversaturated, over-contrasty look, a nice flat picture profile, and you have some nice dynamic range in there, and a sort of HDR effect, if I'm honest. Now, on a standalone basis, it looks really nice, 100%. It's not necessarily the easiest to blend with other cameras, but for point and shoot, it looks amazing, and it's certainly an asset for the GoPro system. Coming back to the original question, why would anyone buy the DJI OSMO Action 3? It is, after all, from a camera perspective, just a repackaged DJI Action 2. Repackaged, that sounds a little bit derogatory, but in this case it perfectly describes exactly why you should be buying this camera. DJI has clearly spent most of its energy here repackaging this into the perfect action camera. Operating temperatures high and low. Let me tell you, you can't use a phone in hot or cold conditions. It switches off. Waterproofing down to 16 meters. I'm not much of a free diver myself, but if I was, that would be useful. We have horizontal and vertical quick mounting here brought across from the Action 2. It's a good system, it's nice, and if you combine it with this new case that comes with the camera, we get vertical mounting as well, super quick and super easy. Dual touchscreens. You can now change all the camera parameters on the front screen. Very useful. When it comes to reliability, it's best to listen to consumer feedback and not YouTuber feedback. Time will tell, but what I can tell you is we have never had any reliability issues with the DJI action cameras. None whatsoever. They work. Can the same be said for GoPros? Absolutely not. There's a reason there's an expression, the GoPro hard reset, pulling the battery out because the camera's jammed in the middle of recording. It's quite annoying. Just look at any of the comments under any GoPro video on YouTube and you'll see some people sharing some choice opinions on that subject. Time will tell. Listen to the consumer feedback, not the YouTuber feedback on that one. When it comes to overheating, we've not had an issue with any of these cameras because we don't use them in a way that they will overheat. We use them like action cameras, so short 10, 20 second clips. And if the camera is running for extended periods of time, it's probably on a drone with tons of airflow, or it's suction cupped to the front of a car with tons of airflow. You don't just leave a camera sitting on a desk running at 120 frames per second indefinitely. That's just an academic exercise. Having said that, the overheating issue of the Action 2 has, according to DJI, been completely solved with the Action 3. You can run this thing at 4K 60 until the battery runs out. By far my favourite feature of action cameras in general is the electronic image stabilization, that digital realignment of frames that takes place in the body of the camera thanks to the gyro data that comes from that little chip on the printed circuit board, sending that information back to the computer, so we have perfect realignment of the frames for crazy ultra smooth footage, and we get that here and some with Rocksteady 3.0. It's absolutely incredible. And the software has taken things to the next level. We get horizon leveling, which gives us stability on our roll axis up to 45 degrees. If you want to go further than 45 degrees, we can take a 2.7K resolution, and we have horizon balancing, which gives us full 360 roll axis stabilization. It's incredible for vlogging in particular. You'll see that the camera defaults to a standard de-warp field of view, which is good because we don't want any warped fisheye effects when we're filming ourselves, and this way you can just walk along and the horizon is always level. It is like having a gimbal. The downside of the likes of Rocksteady electronic image stabilization is it requires a fast shutter speed, so there's no motion blur in the footage. If there's no motion blur, you have nice crispy frames, and the software can realign those frames accordingly using that gyro data. If there's motion blur, which is normally what we want for our cool cinematic footage, that motion blur stops that realignment taking place, and you end up with kind of mushy footage that doesn't really work. So, depends what's important to you. Personally, this incredible electronic image stabilization is the one biggest reason I would buy an action camera, and I would buy an action camera for it. You just need to work around the limitations of not necessarily getting that cinematic motion blur if you're planning on using that stabilization. The 4K slow motion at 120 frames per second looks very good. Now, stylistically for us, normally we would shoot at 2 times slow motion, so 50 frames per second at full resolution, and it looks absolutely fantastic as well, of course. Coming back to the issue of price, because the camera is $329 on a standalone basis, you might have some cash left over for the Adventure combo. Now, normally I don't get too excited by these kind of tag-on upsell type products, but this one is good. You've got the extended selfie stick in there, you've got the vertical mounting cage, some other mounting options there, and you get the battery pack with 2 extra batteries, which is cool. First of all, it's this lovely little sleek case that you can charge with a USB-C. But one thing I really like about it is this becomes a power bank as well. So this can output power into the camera should you wish to charge the battery in the camera like that. And the thing that really tickled my fancy this morning when I saw it was the fact you can store 2 micro SD cards in the lid of the case itself. How nice is that for a design feature? I think this is where DJI just excel. The other thing you'll want to give some thought to is your audio. Now, if you're in a studio environment like this, the onboard audio is going to sound great. Of course it is, but as soon as you're out in the field with the camera a little bit further away from the source of the sound, you might struggle a little bit, especially if it's windy or there's background noise. Whatever the case may be, you can perfectly fit in the DJI microphone receiver here into the USB on the side there and take advantage of the DJI microphone system. It clips on here. That's what we've used for the last, well, best part of a year now on this channel. Everything you hear is from this DJI microphone. It sounds absolutely amazing and it's incredibly practical. Now again, it all comes down to money, money, money. These things all add up and it all gets a little bit expensive eventually. So again, when your camera's costing $329, you've got a little bit left in the pot potentially to invest in some of these other pieces of the puzzle. I was a little bit anxious making this review of the Osmo Action 3 because, as we've seen to some extent, it's a little bit of a rebuilt, repackaged Action 2, certainly from a camera perspective, and it's been very well executed and favourably priced. But nonetheless, I think it's fair to say that technological developments in the action camera market haven't exactly been exponential in the last few years, and I could just as well make a video here explaining to you why you don't need any of these cameras. Buy the original Osmo Action or a GoPro Hero 8. You don't need 4K 120 frames per second and the latest and greatest EIS. The older versions of all of that technology will get you by perfectly well. When a company like DJI sends a YouTube channel or a tech blog a product in advance of the release date for review, there is of course an unwritten assumption that you're not going to criticize that product. It's called influencer marketing for a reason. They're marketing their products via the influencers. That's how it works. These are all sponsored reviews. Just because no money changes hands, the sponsorship is the opportunity to get access to that product in advance and boost the profile of the influencer. Don't think otherwise just because cash doesn't change hands. Now, with all that being said, there's a reason we've put this video out after launch date. We wanted to see what GoPro had to offer with the Hero 11, and we wanted to see how the Action 3 stacked up against its predecessors, the Action 2, the original Osmo Action. Taking all of that into account, we can conclude that the DJI Osmo Action 3 is the best value action camera in 2022. Hands down, no question, at $329. Is it the best action camera? Well, yes, probably, because we are first of all talking about camera performance, very good. We're talking about durability, action credentials, excellent. And we're also talking about reliability and just general ease of use. And with DJI cameras, we get that. Not to mention an app that allows you to live preview while the camera is recording. Minor detail, but quite helpful with an action camera. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I know lots of you will have lots of opinions based on your own personal experience. Do share them, and we will see you next time.